So it seems there's now a massive amount more info about the Warhammer Combat Patrol magazine, with a breakdown of every single magazine issue and its miniature contents out there on the internet. There's some pretty big deals for things like Aeldari, Chaos, Orks and Votann, so let's talk through the leak and contents, and which of the deals look like the single best ones for when it comes to your area. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today we're talking about the Warhammer 40k Combat Patrol magazine, where it now looks like there's an entire breakdown of every single issue and what's in it out there on the internet. I've talked about this one a few times on the channel already. Combat Patrol is the 10th edition Hachette Parkworks magazine. Currently we're on issue 10 out of 90 in the UK. It usually comes out in Britain first, and then goes to a whole bunch of other locations around the world. It's very likely going to be in the USA in spring 2025, so not so very long away now. And there's a whole bunch of other places that got magazines such as Conquest, Imperium and Stormbringer. Combat Patrol is highly odds on to come to those in time, given that it's basically a guaranteed seller with fairly enormous discounts on Games Workshop models. The general idea is it's usually £10 or €11 for a magazine that has some miniature sprues in. I guess that'll translate to somewhere around the $12 to $13 mark in the USA. And compared with Games Workshop prices, it offers pretty great deals on 40k things, typically for the magazine issues that contain miniatures. There's often things around about the half off to 3/4 off of Games Workshop stock prices, which is kind of huge. We already knew about the first 20 issues of the magazine from Warhammer, but it now seems that the entire run of magazines has basically had its contents posted by a site called Goblin Trader. I'd not heard of them before this one, but apparently they're a Spanish official stockist of the magazine, and they'd already done kind of similar with this, posting the entire run of the Stormbringer magazine once they knew the contents. And the contents of the issues that they posted lined up well with what happened in the actual magazine run, plus also the content of these just looks very likely, and it also fits with what we knew about how the magazine would unfold. We basically already knew the order that the factions would be coming out in, as per when you'd get the miniatures from the premium sets. As a result, for this one I thought we'd talk through the run, which might be of interest to people getting the full sub from Hachette Parkworks to know what they get and when, and also focus on any individual issues that might be particularly sought after by people trying to pick up some individual ones for big savings or discounts on 40k things. As compared with what you can normally buy from Games Workshop, there's some pretty massive options here. Before we start out, I'll just give a quick shout out to Forbidden Planet here in the UK. One option that you can pre-order Combat Patrol magazines, and I'll leave it linked in the video description. They generally tend to put out the magazine copies out to pre-order early, so basically remove the risk that you can't find a particularly sought after or valuable one in stores if you can order through them when they're on sale. There is a bit of a premium given that they charge delivery, so it costs £13.50 rather than the usual £10 that you could buy them for in store. But I've used them in the past from time to time to try and snipe some good issues. I don't really mind the delivery fee too much if they guarantee a magazine, rather than taking the time to go out to stores that might or might not have stock of them. Currently they've got the magazine issues posted up to number 18, so you can pre-order any of them. I'll be particularly on the lookout for when 19 and 20 go live though, as both of those look like great discounts. I'm sure they'll sell out soonish. But in any case, there are links down in the video description for those in the UK, and if you do pick up any through them, it does help to support the channel a bit. In any case, jumping straight in, let's go through the entire contents of Combat Patrol. Of course, we had the first one, which is the single best deal out of any of them, the Terminator Captain and Winged Tyrannid Prime, sold far less than normal on containing 2 Games Workshop character miniatures, even if lots of people might have already had copies of them from Leviathan. Then for the first run of them, they had another discounted one with 3 Von Ryan's Leapers in. Again, that was very popular for Tyrannid players. One with 5 Infernus Marines, a trio of paints with a paintbrush, and then the new Infernus Marine Sergeant sculpt at issue 5, and issue 6 was 5 Tyrannid Barbgaunts. Again, a pretty interesting one, given that that was far cheaper than they are normally. I'll certainly be focusing on these when they come out in your area if you don't happen to be based in the UK. Then we had issues 7 and 8, which were kind of bad really. Between the 2 issues you only got 10 Termagants and a Ripper Swarm. They were the monopose version, not the multi-pose version, and you can generally buy them second hand off eBay for cheaper than that, given their abundance in Leviathan and then the starter sets. There's more paints at issue 9, and the paint spawns don't generally tend to be worth seeking out on their own, just buy them separately, though of course they'll just be included if you go for the full sub. Issue 10 is the one that we've reached in the UK, the Terminator Librarian and Base Brush for around about 60% off versus Games Workshop prices. Never mind the brush, it's a particularly sought after one for the Librarian alone. Looks like that one's already listed as sold out on Forbidden Planet, but if you do find a copy of that in stores for £10, it's a very good deal. Then after that, issue 11 is more paints. Then moving up to the rest of the Tyranid and Space Marine run, between issues 12 and 13 you have 5 Terminators and a Teleport Homer, all the monopose ones that you can get in starter kits and things. Again, it looks like they've sold out again from Forbidden Planet, though in my opinion the value is kind of mid. I'd be kind of tempted to pay the extra to have the full multi-part plastic kit, and the monopose ones are still in pretty good supply second hands like eBay, given their prevalence in the starter sets. Definitely not awful though, and it is a reasonable enough way to pick up the Terminators if you can guarantee that you can get both issues. Issue 14 is Paints once more, and then number 15 is a Psychophage. In theory this one should be a good deal versus the stock price of Games Workshop, but again due to its prevalence in Leviathan and the starter sets you can often find them as cheap or cheaper on eBay. This one is still available on Forbidden Planet. I'll leave it linked in the video description. It's a bit of a weird one in that it's not really too much better than buying through eBay at the moment, but come 11th edition when all the starter sets go away, it'll have looked like a great deal by comparison. Number 16 is a couple more paints again. Number 17 and 18 are a rinse and repeat of the Termagants, so not really particularly interesting there. But then it looks like towards the end of each 20 they have 2 of the options that aren't in the Combat Patrol sets. So we've got the Tyranid Parasite of Mortrex and the Space Marine Chaplain on bike. They're 62% and 71% discount respectively. So absolutely great if you can either get them at £10 in stores or £13.50 from Forbidden Planet when they go live. I'll certainly be looking to pick up a Chaplain on bike if I either manage to get there early enough or am able to see them in stores. Then we're off into the newly revealed ones, and it seems that issues 21 to 30 were Aeldari. We knew it was basically Aeldari and Chaos coming next from the premium sub-miniatures that they revealed, but it looks like it's Aeldari first and then Chaos in the 30 to 40 issues. For the Eldar we've got the Farseer in issue 21, paints in 22. It seems that the site has focused on the miniatures and not the paints, given that they're not going to be interesting to people to pick up separately. Numbers 23 and 24 are Guardian Defenders. Number 26 is a Wraithlord, and then with the 2 squads of Wind Riders in the Combat Patrol box set, apparently issues number 27, 28 and 29 will between them have all the 6 Wind Riders. I don't know if it's going to be 2 per issue or some sort of other mix like that, but again a pretty reasonable deal if you can get your hands on them. Number 30 looks like it's paints once more. Out of these the Wraithlord is a particularly good discount, 75% off if it is indeed at the £10 rather than the £40 set. Then moving on, we've got issues 31 to 40. These are broadly Chaos Space Marines besides the individual kits that aren't in the Combat Patrols at the end of the 20 issue run. The Chaos Space Marine is the previous Combat Patrol box, so for this one in number 31 we have the Dark Apostle, a paint set in 32. Then we've got standard Chaos Space Marines split between 33 and 34, the Havocs between 35 and 36, and the Hellbrutes between 37 and 38. Or maybe a little bit less stand out on the discount, but still 50% of Games Workshop prices. Though again, you really would have to guarantee that you can get your hands on both of these magazines and not just one of them. Then though, it's the last 2 that seem to be really stand out. Number 39 is a squad of Wraithguard that you could also build as Wraithblades, and number 40 are Chaos Terminators. Both of those are £40 or $60 kits, I believe, so getting them for 3/4 off is pretty massive. Then we've got the Orks at issues 41 to 50. Again, this one's from their previous Combat Patrol box. Their current one is the Beast Snagger one, and definitely feels like it could be an interesting option for people trying to build up a bunch of the more mainline greenskins as opposed to their Savage Orc cousins. For this one, the first one is a Warboss in Mega Armor. He does look like he's at a good discount there. There's paints for number 42. And then there appears to be a little bit of uncertainty between the next 4. The site has listed as number 43 is just Orc Boys, and they don't say 43 and 44. So I'd guess that might be the entire squad of 10 Orc Boys in the newer style that's slightly monopose and inflexible at 71% off. Then though they have been a little bit confusing against 44 and 45 where they haven't listed the second set. From what they have written down, it looks like there's paints in 44 and 46, and then likely just one set of Orc Boys on number 45, though it hasn't been listed currently. And I guess there's at least a small chance that they might have split out the Orc Boys between the 2 different issues. I'll probably wait for a little bit more confirmation on that one. Potentially good though if it is indeed just 10 boys in one issue of the magazine. Otherwise we've got number 47 and 48 as the Deathcopters. Really quite fun and recent models there. I'm sure they'll be a tempting one to pick up for many. And then 49 and 50 split, we've got the Death Dread, so overall 50% off if you can land both of them. Then for numbers 51 to 60, we've got the Leagues of Votann and Orks. It looks like the Leagues of Votann character, the Carl, is going to be coming in the 52nd one. And then there's 3 runs of split issues for the different miniatures out of their core Combat Patrol. 53 and 54 has the Hearthkin Warriors, 55 and 56 has the Hernkin Pioneers, and 57 and 8 have the Chthonian Berserks. All of those wind up being kind of okay discount, but not enormously standout compared with some. Again, some of the real treasures for the individual issues are a Boomdacker Snazwagon, which looks like it comes in just the single issue at 73% off for number 59. And then Einir Hearthguard, who again seem to be one of the very best discounts out there, a £10 magazine for £40 worth of Elite Space Dwarves. So again, that one's just going to be ridiculously well sought after. Next up, we've got the Genestealer Cult Combat Patrol. And this one does work out to be a fairly good one overall, given that it's the old Combat Patrol that basically had one more unit compared with what you might have expected. The discount was great, as was the amount of models. This one's listed as starting out with a Magus at 61, then a paint set, then an Acolyte Hybrid unit in just one magazine, so that's 65% off. There's two different runs of Neophyte Hybrids, both of those split between two different magazines, and it does mean that they're one of the lower discounts out there. Still a theoretical saving, but only around 32% off, not quite so standout versus discount retailers overall. But then we've got Aberrants in a single one for number 66, and again that's a £28 kit for £10, and then it finishes off with a Goliath Rock Grinder split over two issues for essentially half price. Then we get to the Guard ones, who have also done rather well given that a bunch of their units are squished into an 8 magazine run. The Cadian Command Squad looks pretty standout at just the one magazine for the full squad of them. There's then a Paints issue, and then there's two sets of Cadian Shock Troops that it looks like it's the full squad within just one issue of the magazine each. That looks like it could be a very solid way to get more Guardsmen on the tabletop. The Field Ordnance Batteries are a bit less standout, being split across two issues for a fairly cheap kit. Then there's Heavy Weapon Squads, which don't appear in the Combat Patrol, so they're one of the extra ones, and they'll be almost 70% off in issue 77. The Genestealer Cult Atalan Jackals follow them up as the other unit that's not in the previous Combat Patrol but is in the current one. Either way, they're basically 3/4 off if you can pick up that one. And then the Guard Sentinel is actually one of the lowest discounts outside of things like the Tyranid Termagants, split across two different magazines, so only around about 30% off. Not unhelpful, but again that's not really all that much higher than what you could get from discount retailers. Finally, that just leaves us with one, which are the World Eaters. Seems that they're in the 8-something issues, which are pleased corn, I suppose. It appears that they're basically done with paints by this point, so each of these comes split over two magazines, the Lord on Juggernaut between two, their Cultist Jackal unit between two, then 4 issues total that will build you 20 Berserkers overall, and then seemingly the highest value on this one is the Forge Fiend or Mauler Fiend, which is between the last two issues of 89 and 90. Then alongside that, for people who signed up to the premium subscription, which you have to do early in the magazine's run, I understand that you have to sign up to this within the first 2 drops of the magazine. These are only if you've directly subscribed through Hachette themselves. For the Space Marines and Tyranids, it's issue 15 for a Brutalis Dreadnought and a Hive Tyrant. For the Aeldari and Chaos, it's a Demon Prince and Howling Banshees with number 37. For the Orks and Votann, it's Killer Cans plus Thunderkin in number 59. And for the Guard and Genestealer Cult, it's a Mighty Rogel Dawn and a Brood Coven with number 81, so I guess they're a little bit later and come with the start of the World Eater one. In any case, I think it's kind of helpful to have a little bit more complete information as to how the entire subscription is going to unfold to allow people to plan purchases and know which specific magazines to look out for. Basically, if you can guarantee that you get your hands on all of the magazines that build one certain kit, it's pretty much always a good discount versus Games Workshop on any of them. And it looks like it's particularly helpful for all the armies that basically had a 9th edition Combat Patrol that's now gone away, and being able to get the contents of those, sometimes at even a further discount compared with what Games Workshop were selling them at before. From this information though, it looks like the biggest picks of the magazine are things like the Wraith Lord and Wraith Guard for the Aeldari, the Einhir Hearthguard for the Leagues of Votann, Atalan Jackals for the Genestealer Cults, they may be a little bit taking the edge off that given that they're in the current Combat Patrol, the Boomdacker Snazwagon for the Orks, which is a very cheap buggy at £10, 5 Chaos Terminators in a magazine, and a Chaplain and Bike in a magazine. That one should be out in the not too distant future here in the UK. I guess it does mean that there could be a fair bunch of people seeking after the same content of these. I feel like there's plenty of ways that you could use the collection if you happen to have people stocking nearby, or a friendly newsagent or magazine stockist who can order in the copies that you request out of them. In any case, let me know your thoughts as to the magazine run contents down in the comments. Looking forward to hearing any feedback on the magazine rollout so far. Have you subscribed to Hachette Partworks? Have you picked up any of the individual issues to get some discounts on some Space Marines or Tyranids yet? And if you're outside of the UK, would you intend to do either the one or the other or neither when the magazine turns up in your area? As mentioned, if you are in the UK and you wanted to pre-order some of these, keep an eye on Forbidden Planet with a link in the video description for things like the chapters on Bike and Parasite and Mortrex, and then some Aeldari goodness after that, it would seem. A big thank you to anyone using that one, as it does help to support the channel a little. Otherwise, I'll leave that there for now. Look forward to hearing all your thoughts down in the comments, and feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I'll certainly keep up with Games Workshop's news and releases, and any other deals that they might come out with. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and you can find that linked in the video description if you'd like to help support and keep all the content coming. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.